W- Well, hey, we logged in to Zoom, and why don't we just do a show, man?
Why the heck a doodle not there, Tom? Good morning.
Good morning to you, Brett. I'm excited about this. We got a great show lined up for you guys, and we're gonna have a good time with this. And this could be pertinent, especially given the times, the state of this country, the world, stress, anxieties, all that, all-time high, and people are seeking aid, seeking therapy, whether that's through online means. Great companies have come about that offer services, so it's helped to break the stigma, and more people are reaching out to find a therapist that can be helpful. And you have said it time and time again that it's really about timing and fit, those two things together. It's about time. I really need some extra help. The people that are around me haven't been as supportive, or there's something missing or lacking, and I need someone who's professional, who talks to a lot of people, who, is educated and skilled and experienced with being able to help, and somebody that I resonate with, that I can relate to, that says the kind of things that I'm looking for, that can be validating but also challenging, and those types of things. And so more and more people are reaching out for therapy through many means, even utilizing AI, which,
Mhm.
we've got some disclaimers regarding that, but it can be a great adjunct to you saying a professional human being. But today, I wanted to talk about, if you are seeing a therapist or looking to see a therapist, there are some red flags to be wary of. And of course, you're not going to know this until you're actually in the setting, but this can help determine whether or not this is the right fit for you. And so we'll talk about it. It's sort of like a top 10 of therapist red flags. They are not limited to these, but this just gives you some things to potentially watch out for.
Sounds great. Yeah, people come, and say, "Oh, I hear this all the time." I had said, I've seen three therapists, and it just does nothing for me. Therapy doesn't work for me.
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that." Well, therapy works for most people, right? It's an interaction for most people, but just as you said, it's about timing and fit. It's got to be the right time in your life. Where you're ready to devote some time, energy into this process. And we've said this 1,000 times. Therapy and counseling is not about the hour you spend with a counselor. It's about every other hour outside of that interaction, what you're doing, how you're changing your thinking, what coping skills you're implementing, what changes in thinking that you're willing to implement.
Hmm.
And if you just want to sit and expect a counselor for 1 hour a week to solve your problems, you have an unrealistic expectation of what counseling is. There
Right.
is no magic silver bullet that's the therapist is going to throw on you that's going to make things okay. So
No.
timing, what are you willing to put into it? And your right fit. It's got to be the right fit with the right counselor. So, and people say to me all the time, counseling doesn't work. They come, they ask me about my week. We shoot the crap for an hour and then I go home. Well, that's not counseling. If that's what your
Right.
counselor is doing, run.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not what counseling is about.
And look, I'm not the right fit for
Oh,
everybody. And going through these red flags, there's times when I inadvertently
oh yeah.
have done more than one of these, and then I have assessed later. I'm like, ooh, that wasn't so great. That wasn't as therapeutic, or I need to check myself. But I think maybe there was a moment where there was some countertransference or triggering moment, or we just didn't jive or mesh well. And maybe it's because
Mhm.
it's not at the right time in their lives for you,
Mhm.
because there's too much other stuff going on. And they really can't devote time and energy to making the positive changes, because I can't do it for somebody. They have to do some of the work too. I'll be a guide and be of support, but can't do it.
A
So
Sherpa, so to say.
yeah. So anyway, let's talk about, here's some top 10, not in any particular order, the top
All
10
right.
red flags, the
Red
therapist
flag.
edition. If you are in therapy and you spot or notice one of these, you have to think twice. Maybe the therapist is having an off day. Maybe it's not the right fit, or maybe they're just not a great therapist for you. Doesn't mean they're a bad person or a bad therapist altogether. It just means it's not right for you. So if you assess that your therapist is doing one or all of these, maybe it's not the right place for you, but we're not saying that that person is inherently bad or that they don't know what they're doing. That's not what this is.
Hmm.
It's just saying that this may not be the right spot for you. And if there are therapists listening,
Mhm.
wary of these
Like,
because,
oh no,
yeah, they
I'm
get in the
about to be
way.
exposed.
Yep. So, make sure you've washed because you're about to be exposed.
Hmm.
Anyway, all right. Should we go 1 to 10, 10 to 1? I don't know, whatever. Well, number one, screw it. They talk more than you do.
Oh,
And when I read these, you're totally going to be like, I know exactly the person or several people who do these things, and you're going to be like, yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. Look, you're
and
not in
you and
there to
I, and
listen.
the funny part, Tom, is you and I are picturing the same person.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're not in there to listen to their like podcast or their TED
uh,
talk, like this is, and yeah, if they're talking more than you are, then that's a red flag, man.
mhm.
Telling
And
stories about themselves.
sometimes initially when to try to, build a relationship and, foster some trust and some, a safe environment, the therapist may talk a little bit more out of the gate.
Yeah.
But if that continues, the therapist should back off a little bit. I mean, sometimes in time, we love, you're going to crack up or you'll recognize this is the person comes in and you say, hi, my name is Brett. And, blah blah blah, confidentiality, abuse, neglect of a child, and imminent risk, and blah blah blah. So what's going on? And that's the only thing you say for the next 45 minutes.
Exactly. Yep.
They're off to the races.
Yep. Yep. That
Yeah,
happens, and
you.
that can happen in the first session.
Yeah. And then there's times where it's like, da, 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 nice to meet you. And they're like, okay. So, why are you here? What can I help with? Well, I don't know. Okay. So, what prompted you to, book this appointment today? Well, my wife said I should come here.
Yeah. Oh, that happens all the time.
You're
Okay.
like, okay. So then that's when we start talking a little bit more. We got to start,
Yeah.
building that relationship, making it a comfortable space. And, so
Yeah.
in those cases, we talk a little bit more.
So do you like football or movies?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fishing. All right. Well, let's talk about that.
All
And then
right.
that you help weave the way. But yeah, you're right. If that continues, if up front there's a whole lot of talking and building the relationship and the rapport. And I'm a fan at times when I think appropriate, disclosing some things,
Hmm.
personal things, that I think could be really helpful in the session. But once or twice, maybe, like, but when you have a therapist who is constantly talking about themselves, and there's just something not so great about that regarding the therapeutic alliance and regarding the person getting better. So are you
Hmm.
getting better by telling, by
All
you
right.
sharing instead of allowing your client to get better? Anyway,
All right.
so they talk more than you do. Potential red flag. Number two.
And
Hey.
we're going to pull the curtain back a little bit here, Tom. And this is the therapist edition, right? So when you're working harder than your client, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Shut your
Mhm.
mouth.
Yeah. Shut your
And,
mouth.
and how many times have we done that? Like, wait, I'm working way too hard here, and this client's
Oh
just
God.
sitting here with a big old grin on their face. I'm like, whoa,
Yep.
how do we end up down this dead end street? Let's back this crap up.
Hmm.
Beep beep.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm exposed a little bit. Good thing I washed.
Uh,
Number two, they make you feel judged or even shamed.
oh,
Hmm.
icky.
Now, it's okay for a therapist to be challenging at times to
Hmm.
help the client look at things from a different perspective. But if you feel like there's a lot of, yeah, judgment about you and your decisions, then it's not therapy, and that's not a great fit. I mean, growth can feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you shouldn't feel humiliated.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a big one. Like you said, challenging. I'm a big one for challenging. Not out of the gate. Hi, nice to
Mhm.
meet you. Why the hell you doing that? That's
Mhm.
not my MO, but I could do some challenging. And I had one. I think it was last week. I got this whole like 20-minute tirade about how their job sucks so bad. And I'm like, why don't you quit your job and find something new?
Yeah. Like,
What?
what?
I can't do that. Oh, let's talk about that.
Let's dive into that. And
Yeah.
I remember you saying something that really resonated with me years and years ago, and it comes up in my mind very frequently. And th this coincides with like three big populations that clinicians tend to judge a little bit
Mm,
more so than others. And that's narcissists, borderlines, two big personality disorders, and addicts. Those are like
mm,
top three where it's like you just mention the word borderline around a bunch of clinicians and they all like cringe and like, oh, right. Then there's like immediate judgment regarding that, and that's not so good. So anyway, you had said, um, think about like in reference, I think it was in reference to an addict, alcoholic. Think about everybody that judges them in their lives, from family to friends, people that they've lost, previous employers, like it's not like, oh, somebody who has diabetes or something where, we won't judge them. We're like, oh, okay, you have a legitimate illness, but an alcoholic, oh, that's not a legitimate illness. You're making a choice to do that. And so there's this judgment from everybody. And you said, we as clinicians have the opportunity to treat them differently than everybody else in their lives. We have
mhm.
this opportunity to hold space for them and to be kind, to be compassionate, to display unconditional positive regard, the Rogerian type. And I was like, that is beautiful. Like I didn't think about it that way. How many people, everybody judges this person, and I have
Right.
an opportunity to treat them differently. A
Yeah.
wonderful thing, man.
How about be the one person in their life that's not judging them? And what
Exactly.
a concept. I mean, how how therapeutic is that? Just that one basic tenet alone.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
So thank you.
Yeah. You were telling that story. I'm like, I'm trying to remember that. Like, boy, did I say smart stuff? Wow, I don't even remember.
Yep, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number three, a red flag. They give generic advice.
Mm,
Now,
yeah.
it's not uncommon for a therapist to, as a segue in, to
Hmm.
offer, hey, have you tried meditation? Have you tried journaling? I mean, these things can be really helpful.
Hmm.
And this is only the beginning of our work together. And I mean, we mentioned getting those basic things down,
Hmm.
sleep, nutrition, exercise, water, having a daily schedule. And that's generic, but also across the board, these things need to be present if you're a human being anyway. But then
Right.
we take things a step further. So if
Hmm.
constantly your therapist is only giving out this generic advice and there's no
Hmm.
deep exploration as to what that looks like or how that happened for you, so if somebody says, oh, I'll try meditation, then they never do, like then I've got to dive
Hmm.
deeper into that and try some other techniques and other things and explore why that's, not going to
Hmm.
be helpful. And you still need a moment of peace and quiet. Anyway, talking too much. Um, but just giving generic advice, it's like, well, I mean, I could have found that on Google. Why am I,
Right.
you know?
Right. And Tom, you and I talk about the basic five things that people need to do on a daily basis, and it's sleep, exercise, good nutrition, um, sleep, exercise, good nutrition, hydration, and keeping to a basic schedule. I mean, those are the basic five things that we need to do every day. And that doesn't mean you do those five things and you're going to have a happy go skippy life. It means that's like breathing, right? Those are the five basic things that you need to do to make yourself as resilient as possible to give you the best opportunity that you can do the other things like learn meditation and coping skills and those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
when we talk about the basic five, that's like breathing, right? Make
Hmm.
sure you breathe today. Well, make sure you get some exercise today. Make sure you
Hmm.
drink water. Make sure you get some sleep.
Yeah. I mean, the difference with a decent therapist, or a good therapist, is that they can give you perspective and maybe foster some insight instead of
Hmm.
just giving advice you could come up with on ChatGPT or
Right. Helps you think
Google.
about things in a different way,
Yeah.
right? You always think that B comes after A, but have you considered that maybe there's a different way to think about things?
Yeah.
And what would be different in your life if you thought about something a little bit different? So you think that, let me give a better example. You think that when your boss gives you criticism, he's telling you that you're an idiot. is there a different universe where when your boss gives you criticism, he really cares about you and he's trying to make you better at what you do? Is that even possible?
Yeah. And what does that look like?
No.
What does that look like for you? Yeah.
And if that's true, what would be different?
I don't want to take accountability.
No. Oh, that's
Uh, Number four, they don't remember important details about you,
funny.
right? You're just, I don't, who are you again? They got to look at their schedule, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know, we're humans, so we're gonna forget things. I mean, you and I see a multitude, a myriad of different people, and so it sometimes it can get confusing. That's why we take a lot of good notes. But also, I mean, when we make these bonds and connections with other people, you remember stuff about them. You remember
Mm.
their really powerful struggles, their traumas. You know, you
Mm.
might not remember their, you know, second cousin twice removed, their name. But remembering important details about you is really important to make the client feel valued, feel heard, to feel important in the session. Like you're really there for them. And if you're a therapist who's, you know, forgetting all that stuff or then it doesn't make it seem like you're really there for them or that they're really important.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I usually I'm pretty good with that. I not always, of course, I'm human, but I'm usually pretty good with that. But then when I'm done seeing a client, I hit the control alt delete and I
Yeah, yeah.
download and delete all that information because it's so funny. Like I will remember a lot of details about a person's life until I'm not seeing them anymore, and then I'll see them 2 months later, like in a grocery store, and it's like I know their face, but I can't even like
Right.
I remember them being a client, but I don't even remember their story. And it's
Right.
so weird how I can just delete
Yeah. And
because
there's sometimes if it's
I don't want your life in my head. I really don't. I mean, y'all are interesting and all, but
right.
I just don't need it.
It sometimes if it's been a while, you're like, are you the cashier from Publix or somebody that
Right. I know. But that's a skill. And, us as counselors, we really have to learn how to do that. Put stuff in a file and put it away or delete or any of that stuff. And that's hard to do. And when therapists are not good at that, um, that usually causes problems for them.
And if you're not great at that, I mean, for whatever reason, I have, been given a gift of being able to remember intimate details about people for long stretches of time, especially if I'm working with them over and over again. And it's really helpful. But if you're not, if you're a therapist that's not good because you see a myriad of people and you have to control, alt, delete that stuff, then take really good notes. And then before you see the person,
Right.
however many clients you're seeing that day, go back and read some of the
Mm-hmm.
notes and,
Mm-hmm.
star certain, elements in your note taking so that you can remember, oh, okay, this person has this trauma and this was their major issue. And I mean, you should be having treatment, plans, right? For like, if you're a private practice therapist, I mean, inherently you have to have treatment plans that the client agrees upon and that you're working on together. I mean, goals that you're working towards. And so I guess that could lead to another one. Anyway, skipping around.
Back when I was a young therapist, and I saw a lot more. When we were in trenches and saw a lot more just repetition, a lot more people. I would draw like little doodle things. Well, that's back when we had paper charts too as well. And I would have little doodles on the left part in the margin because I'm left-handed. It was just easy to do, so that I didn't have to read to remember. So
Yeah.
like three little doodle pictures, and it would jog my memory into exactly what was happening with that person. It was the therapist shorthand,
And it worked. Yeah.
and it worked.
Very nice. Mhm. Number five. Well, we're already number five. They push their values or their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
This is a red flag. Mhm. If
Yeah.
you know too much about your therapist and they're contradicting and they're not meeting you where they're at, they're contradicting what you believe is true.
Mhm.
Not, I mean, we can kind of, regarding a belief system, help somebody, gain some insight, give a different viewpoint, and kind of help them maybe make some changes if there's something not so great in their belief system, something that they were taught or learned that maybe has been harmful over the years. But it's not up to us to change, their affiliation or their beliefs or what they
All
find
right.
to be true in life.
If you know your counselor's therapist, and I say counselor and therapist, interchangeably. I mean, in my mind, they mean the same thing. And it's so funny that I had a client actually a couple of weeks ago that asked me if I'm a counselor or a therapist. And I said, well, I'm basically both. I mean, they mean the same thing. No, they don't. A therapist has a higher degree of education, and a counselor just talks or something like that. And I was like, I don't know where you got that information, but that's not true. Well, like
True.
a counselor works in a school, but a therapist sees clients. And I'm like, well, that's how you've interpreted, and that's fine. But I am a master's degree clinician with a independent license, et cetera. So
Hmm.
anyway, so I don't, boy, that was boy. I ended up down the end of that dead end street. Jesus. Oof.
But I mean,
And
essentially, we're not trying to recruit them to our worldview or belief system. We're
right.
just trying to, help to educate, but explore things with them and just guide them, Sherpa style, right?
And if you know your and where I was going with this, if you know your therapist, political affiliation, prejudices, and political leanings, then that's probably not the right therapist for you because they shouldn't be sharing all that stuff with you unless you've specifically asked. And that has become more apparent lately. There are people that if you're a left, I can't talk with you, and if you're a right, I can't. So we got to get some of this basic tenet out of the way.
Yeah. Mm.
And politics and religion too.
Yeah.
I've
Oh, yeah.
more people recently have asked if are you a Christian counselor? Well,
Mhm.
tell me why that's important to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I had something very similar happen just recently. And this person brought religion and wanted to know my religious affiliation, in particular because I do hypnosis, and that's sort of a no-no when it comes to their religion. There's a whole bunch of weird mysticism and I don't know surrounding that, and so I said, if that's something that's important to you, well, I completely understand that. Like I don't think my religious or spiritual beliefs have any um they're not going to get in the way of us being therapeutic regarding the
Hmm.
situation. But if that's important to you, then I can recommend some Christian
Hmm.
based counselors. So that's it's fine. That's not a good fit.
And sometimes a cultural link is important, and culture means not only race, ethnicity, but also religion. Culture means where am I comfortable? Where do I have similarities with people? And we see that with a lot of sometimes religion, but sometimes Eastern kinds of philosophies.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Anyway,
African
but if that's an
American,
important piece to
some
you,
black people. Yeah, some black people
absolutely.
really want a black therapist, and that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's absolutely fine. Whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever is going to
Right.
enable you to connect with the person, the therapist,
Hmm.
do the work
Right.
that's involved with making some positive change, then
Hmm.
you're you. I mean, you and I are not the fit or cookie cutter for every single person.
Right.
Neither is any other therapist.
I'm what we there call an acquired taste.
It's true. Number six, there is no progress and no discussion about why. Hmm.
Oh yeah.
So you're going to therapy and you're telling the same stories over and over again, have the same concerns, nothing changes.
All
And
right.
no, like, well, let's take a look at that. And you know
Right.
what? I can, here I'll expose myself. Huzzah! Um, there are times when, I get stuck with, we're talking about the same stories, and it takes me a few sessions to be like, I need to be a good therapist and I need to redirect this because nothing is
Yeah.
happening. And, I
Right.
sort of chalked it up to, well, they're not doing anything to change. and they're
Mm.
not taking the suggestions in. But I need to be the person in their life who says, well, let's talk about why things are not changing and what do we need to change within our
Right.
relationship. And then what will you be able to do to make some changes? Are you ready to make some changes? Maybe moving them through the stages of change, or maybe
Mm.
even recommend another therapist. Like maybe
Mhm.
we've reached the end of what you and I together are capable of, and maybe there's going to be somebody who can challenge you in a different way that I cannot, and I need to be able
And
to
a
do.
good review is reviewing those treatment goals. I mean, the first thing that you should do in the first session, sometimes second session, depending on the person, is what is it that you want out of counseling? Why are you here? Why are you willing to spend your time and your money? What is it that you want different in your life? And in
Mhm.
reevaluating those, not maybe on a weekly basis, but at least on a monthly basis, where are you at with your goals? Are you making any progress?
Yeah.
If you rated this category on a 3 on a 10-point scale and you're still at a 3, hello, well, how are we going to
Yeah.
get to a 4? What's going on here?
Yeah. Exactly. So if you're in therapy, ask about your treatment goals and make sure you agree with them. Are you doing
Mm-hmm.
that? Are you working towards something? Are you seeing progress? Or is
Mm-hmm.
it just going in, every couple of weeks and talking about the same stuff and nothing changes? That's a red flag. We need to do something about that.
And as a counselor, and I'm a bit different in that, I don't see, and particularly now, I don't see people long term, but um, I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I get a little pushy with them. We were not here to shoot the crap. Why are you keep rating this as a 3 and we're not making any progress? What's going on here?
Yeah.
So I'm not doing my job. So you're gonna fire me today? No,
Hmm.
what? What? No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So yeah.
This kind of leads into number 7, red flags for a therapist. They create dependence instead of independence.
Oh yeah.
This happens quite often, and this is a big red flag. Now, I know there are certain times when a client is really struggling, and certain interventions like DBT, they foster this initially to have the client really lean on the therapist to help restore them to sanity in a way, to
Mm.
help them move through. But I mean, eventually that needs to be, sort of dialed down or dialed back or titrated down or whatever so that you create empowerment, independence so that I mean, I always say right in like the first or second session when I'm working with somebody, my goal is to get you to a place where you no longer need me. Now, if you
All
like
right.
me and you want to continue and this helps and it's okay. I have people that I've been seeing for years and years, but really my ultimate goal is to get you to a place where you no longer need my services. You are strong and resilient and empowered, and you know exactly what to do. And maybe we need to tweak things every, 6 months or so, but for the most part, and then you tell everybody that Tom helped me go to him.
All right.
That's the goal. But if you ever feel like if you don't have your therapist, then you would be like you'd fall off the cliff, then maybe let's
Mm.
take a look at that.
Yeah, that is a big red flag.
You know. Yeah, if you have fears about your treatment ending with this person, if you feel like you're leaning on them too much, if you feel like you just need to keep going forever and ever and ever, then that's not necessarily a great thing. Because how many times do we see, hey, I really resonated with this person and I was going and I was making some changes and I felt really good, and then they moved or they
Mm.
retired
All
or
right.
the place got shut down or something, and then they're like, oh, what now? Well, I mean, how long were you seeing them? Was it once or was it like, oh, for 6 years? Well, I mean, I feel like in 6 years, like that should have fostered, a degree of like you're
Mhm.
making some positive changes. And if you're not, then that might not be the right fit. Anyway,
Right.
mm. Number 8, the boundaries
Mm.
feel confusing or maybe
Mm.
inconsistent. such as there's dual relationships involved, like and then that happens, like all of a sudden you start seeing this person and then you realize that they've also been working on your car, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And what do we do about that? We see them out in town all the time because they work at Publix or something, and then you become friendly with
Hmm.
them. Or, especially when we have kids, and I see kids, they start to foster, this is an adult who sometimes can act like a parent, but sometimes acts like a really good friend. And I start to lean on that, and then having the inconsistent boundaries of this is a therapeutic relationship and I am your therapist, and I'm not all these other things. I'm not your parent, I'm not your friend, I'm not, and especially in this age with social media, that can become problematic when we're befriending, we're
Right.
friends on TikTok or Facebook
Mm.
or whatever, Instagram or
Yeah.
something. Then it kind of blurs the lines, and that's a red flag. Can be a red flag. If a therapist is over involved in your life, where I've seen where therapists go to the person's home, they go out, they meet them out at Starbucks for coffee, they are so involved in their lives that they're maybe not it's not a transactional thing. Like that's a little too much, or the lack thereof. The lack of connection, not being available. Not having appointments for you, not carving out space and time, and but then they're over involved, like the back and forth. That's just a red flag, man. Blurred professional lines.
Blurred professional lines.
Eh,
And we
eh,
have a lot of ethical obligations as therapists on what we can and can't do. I mean, our code of ethics tell us a lot of those things what we can and can't do. And specifically, I mean, the biggest first red flag, and you and I, Tom, both know people that have broken this, but and it should be it's so basic, but you can't have a relationship even post therapy, and particularly a romantic relationship post
right.
therapy.
Yeah.
um, once you've established, and it's so funny, I'll meet people and then they'll say, oh, you're a therapist. That's so cool. You can give me free therapy. And I'll be like, well, I could be your friend or I could be your therapist, but I can't be both. So pick which one you want to, what relationship you'd like for me. And
Right.
because it
Right.
can only be one.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, and a big reason why that's so important is because when we are professional and we carve out, here's the boundaries and the confines of this relationship, it creates safety for the person
Hmm.
to heal. And if there's not safety, then you can't
Right.
make these positive changes or as robustly or as therapeutically as
Hmm.
um, can be. Anyway, number nine, red flag for a therapist, they avoid difficult conversations.
Oh,
Now, we
yeah.
understand that the client may want to avoid having difficult conversations, but it's kind of up to us to move them through. I mean, why else are they coming? Because things aren't going well. We're not seeing them because life is beautiful, right? For them, we want to help them to see that their life is beautiful and make some changes so it can become more beautiful. But there's some growing pains. We have to have some
Right.
difficult conversations.
Yeah, difficult conversations. That's part of the gig. I mean, that's where the growth happens. Growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable and doing everything right. Growth happens when you in that uncomfortable space.
Yeah. I've seen this happen where a person who is a client, they are saying, I'm probably seeing them too, maybe for EMDR, but they're also seeing another clinician, and they feel like they want to have a difficult conversation, but they are shying away from it because that clinician has gotten defensive or, made them feel a little
Mm.
judged about it. So maybe they mention, hey, I'm not sure this is going a direction that I like, or maybe I feel like you're sharing too much about yourself. I don't feel like I actually get to talk. And if they're dissatisfied with the service, they should feel comfortable sharing that without the therapist saying, well, it's you're putting it back on them. Well, it's because of you or the things you're not doing instead of accepting. I mean, I've had to accept where somebody was dissatisfied with me And I said, well, let's explore that. And if ultimately you decide that I'm not the right fit, then that's okay. But initially, you get your butt hurt and you get like, okay, well, I thought I was doing what was right, but
Hmm.
you're dissatisfied. So I have to take a look at that. Okay.
All
Well,
right, for sure. Yeah.
nothing's changing. You're not helping, my son or daughter or whatever. Okay, well, let's take a look at that.
All right. Hmm.
Maybe it's something that I'm doing or not doing. Sure, could very well be. And where could, the parent help with this? And what could the kid be doing that could be better? Anyway, so don't avoid difficult conversations. That's a red flag if your therapist gets super defensive and they misunderstand you and they shy away from having those really difficult conversations.
Or changes the subject.
Yeah. Mhm.
I've seen that happen in group therapy where you get the person that will just diffuse the meat. When you get to the meat of the situation and they start diffusing, it's like, ugh, we need to look at that.
Yeah. And number 10,
Dun, 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 dun. Can we have a drum roll for number 10?
you feel worse.
Ah,
You consistently feel worse without any meaning or direction.
yeah.
Not only are you not working towards a goal, but you actually like things that have come up, things that have been maybe explored, traumas, remembered, all of a sudden, and there's a part where sometimes things feel a little bit worse when we start to open up Pandora's box and really delve into it. But then very quickly,
Right.
especially a good skilled therapist, experienced therapist, has techniques, knowledge, the ability to start to contain that stuff, help them
Hmm.
move through it, put it where it needs to go, discard the shit that's no longer useful, and heal from that. But if you just feel worse and worse and worse, and you're just drudging up all this stuff, then this is not a great fit, and that's a potential red flag in therapy.
Right.
Do you feel
And
destabilized?
I talk a lot in analogies just because that's how I learn. So I expect everyone to be just like me. Haha. But if they're ripping off all the band-aids and not attending to the wounds,
Right,
that's a big red flag. So you're right. Sometimes after a particularly rough session or an EMDR specifically, people do feel a little bit worse or have a little bit are jumbled or a little bit um, all insert appropriate term here,
right,
but it should be short lived. They should have some techniques to contain. Um, yeah, but you're right. Consistently worse is a big red flag.
right. And therapists out there, if you're listening, we need to do some talk with your clients about how to contain stuff even by themselves. And
Right.
EMDR is a great example. We talk about the container or where to store that stuff temporarily to lock it up in a chest or to move it away, put it in the box, store it
Mm-hmm.
in the filing cabinet, however you need to do that, so that, okay, this isn't going to rule my life for the next
Mm-hmm.
week or 2 weeks until I see the therapist again. Like I'm just going to temporarily stick this in this area, in this
Right.
container, and then we'll come back to it. That's really important. Even if you don't feel like the person needs it, do that anyway, because how many times have you had a doorknob confession, right?
Oh,
And what we mean by that is when you've talked for an hour about this, that, and the other thing, and maybe you've worked on some things and you're saying goodbye, and then you go to leave and they grab the door and they open the door and they start to slowly close it. And they, oh, by the way, this horrendous thing happened to me. And you're like,
yeah. By the way, I
oh,
forgot to tell you I was raped when I was younger.
yeah, like, oh. So if you do some work with the container type, metaphor, then you say,
Mhm.
"Well, you know what? I'm so honored that you shared that with me. That's definitely something that I want to explore. Let's go ahead and put that in the box and lock it away, like you go take care of your personal needs, be in the moment as best you can. If you need to write anything out and send it to me, I'd be happy to field that. But let's get into that. And, maybe we can see each other sooner rather than later. What are you doing
Right.
next Tuesday? Right. Doorknob confessions.
All the time. And in the back of our heads, we're just going, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't. Oh, there
Right.
we go.
Right.
There we go.
Sometimes there's an emotional flooding that happens right there when you're leaving, and you're like,
But that's a defensive mechanism. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's a defensive mechanism too. Is I wanted to say this in the first 5 minutes and never got up the nerve, but
right,
I really my goal was is to let this information out, and this
sure,
is the only way I can do it. So if I don't do this, I have not again, I haven't accomplished my goal. So
right. Mhm.
it's necessary sometimes.
So they blast you with that thing right in front of the.
Yeah.
But if you're in therapy, you should feel like there's a direction to,
Hmm.
you know.
There's
They-
goals, there's boundaries, there's safety, there's professionalism. You're being heard. There's a safe space for you. Those are
yeah,
all hallmarks of great counseling. Is it always fun? And no, it's really not. You know, people get uncomfortable, and that's where the growth happens. So,
right. So you want to feel safe, you want to feel comfortable, you want to resonate with the therapist, you want to feel heard and listened to, but also challenged.
mhm.
Like you're not just a friend who's a sounding board. Like you want to start promoting some, a little bit of discomfort so that they can grow from there. Because challenge is when we actually grow and adapt. We don't change when we're comfortable,
Mhm.
but we also don't change when we're terrified. So it's right in the middle, that sweet spot. All right.
And therapy is about timing and fit. It's got to be the right time in your life where you're ready to devote some time, energy. And a lot of the counseling, therapy, therapeutic progress happens outside of the sessions. So, and it's got to be the right fit with the right therapist. Do not feel if you are seeing a therapist 3, 4 times and you're not feeling it and you're not making any progress, that's a great topic of conversation. Maybe it's not the right fit for you. And Tom, you and I are both great therapists, and people have said to us, "This isn't working," and we're like more than happy to refer them on. I
Absolutely.
want people to have a great experience, and if it's not with me, then let's find you somebody that you can make some growth with.
Absolutely.
I
100%.
never take it personally. I would rather you. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys out there. A lot of
It
you
was
who have
helpful
been in
for me,
therapy.
Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. We get help from each other. It's good. So
Right?
I'm sure a lot of you out there can resonate to the things we've said, and you'd be like, yes, 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 yes. I'm seeing these.
Absolutely. Hey, let us know what you think of this episode. Questions at therapyunzipped.com. Lend us know what you thought. Got any questions? Got anything you want us to talk about? Let us know.
Zip it over. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Tom.
Well,
Always
you guys
my
have an
pleasure.
amazing weekend and a great week. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Tom.